Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and I'm here with
Mike Snyderman.
How you doing, Mike?
Pretty good.
Good. That was, how did last week you went down to L.A. and you played in another one of the tournaments? How did that go?
Yeah, I haven't done anything really well since the one deep run. I think I've gone and played 7 or 8 tournaments, and one of them it was actually a session. There's like 10 different sessions in this $240 buy-in. Mm-hmm. And in one of the sessions, I played like 5 of them. In one of them, I came in 26th, which paid a minimum amount, but only 5% of the people went on to the next day. So it was kind of poor.
Okay.
I was going to say, you and I actually got to see each other play a little poker yesterday.
That was fun. Yeah, we did. I did for the first time online tournaments, which I haven't done, I think, since I got married. I got a new computer, and all my software and everything was on my old computer, and I was able to switch over my Holdem Manager 2 and Tournament Indicator and all that. So that was $150 worth of software that luckily I was able to keep the licensing key and switch them over. So that was cool. And then I started grinding with my heads up display, and then saw you were on Skype. So then we started doing screen sharing, and that was fun.
And then I helped you get knocked out of a tournament.
I bageled 6 of them. Yeah, I played 6 tournaments and bageled every single one. I want to go over some of those hands with Mark, because I feel like there were several spots, not just that last one with the ace queen, but several spots where I didn't really play optimally. And there was one hand where I had ace king and the other guy had kings, and I feel like I could have got away from it. Maybe I couldn't have. I don't know. But yeah, it was that was cool. How did you end up doing? I signed off before you did, and you were still in a couple.
Yeah,
of them.
I had a pretty decent day. I cashed in the biggest 3 tournaments of the day there: the $100, the $500, and the $200.
Good for you. And
one of them was almost a nice one. I came in 3rd in the 25K event.
Nice.
$109 buy-in for $2,909.
Good for you.
First place was $6,700.
Oh, you always look at first.
Right. Well, you should. I mean, I should go back and look at the hands. And at this point, there's not a hand that I would play hideously wrong. But there's probably like a lot of little mistakes I made because, And then I came in 18th in the big $530 buy-in. I think when we said goodbye, I had one of the bigger chip stacks in that one.
Yeah, you did.
And I forget. I think when there was 40 left, I was like 5th. I think I lost a big flip, ace king versus queens, which took me down to like a average stack, and then I just kind of never really got anything going there.
Yeah. Right on. What was your end result at the end of the day? How much were you up?
Probably about 3,000.
Good for you, man. Congratulations.
So then I went to Ocean's 11 last night, give myself some dinner, play some poker, and I made $200 there too. So hey.
Cool. Well, that was a good day.
So, and who are we speaking with today, Steve? We got a nice interview coming up here.
We do. This one's all thanks to you. Where did you meet him? His name's Travis Jonas.
Yeah, we played together during Event 2 of the LAPC.
Okay.
And, one of those things for a while we were just playing, not really talking, but then we started talking, and he had some interesting stories to tell, and then I found out he was a bracelet winner.
Nice.
So that of course, immediately piqued my interest, and yeah, I still don't know too much about him, but he had some funny stories dealing with poker pros, poker celebrities. Lived in Vegas as a dealer for a while, and it's kind of seen it all, even in the older days, I guess, for us, pre Moneymaker.
Yeah,
because I believe his bracelet was I want to say 2001 or something like that. Yeah, so it was even before the poker boom.
Yeah. I talked to him on the phone for about half an hour the other day, and he was telling me stories. I guess Phil Ivey used to back him. His first game that he ever dealt, he never even went to dealer school or anything. He just told him that he knew how to deal because he dealt at like home games. And the first game that he ever dealt, everyone sat down at the table with like 50 grand, and he was dealing to Johnny Chan and all these big names, and he's just like, and he leveled with them off the bat.
We'll have to ask him to tell that story.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. But yeah.
So should we quickly maybe discuss a hand or two before we get Travis on the horn?
Okay. I've got a few of them here. Do you got one you want to discuss, or?
I've got a few too.
Okay.
So you want to go first, or you want me to go first here?
Let's see. I'll go first.
Okay.
I've got okay. Again, 2-3, no limit cash. Under the gun limps for 3. The villain in this hand is in early position. She limps for 3. She just sat down. She's a lady probably in her 50s. She's drinking a beer. Very social. Middle position limps for 3. Another middle position limps for 3. I'm in the cutoff with ace 5 of spades. I limp for 3. The small blind completes. The big blind checks, and we go to the flop. So we got 21 in the pot. And the flop is ace of clubs, 4 of clubs, 7 of spades. So I flop a top pair with a pretty crappy kicker, a backdoor spade draw, and a backdoor straight draw.
Okay.
Draw. Under the gun checks. And then early position, the lady, the villain, she bets 17 into a 21 pot.
Okay.
Middle position folds. The next guy folds, and then it's on me.
How many? How deep are you guys?
We're both about 300.
I guess you got a call. You got an ace.
That was my logic. I wasn't sure if I was ahead or behind. I thought she could have a better ace, I guess, or maybe a club draw is what I was thinking. So I ended up calling, and the small blind and the big blind both fold.
I'm almost thinking just quickly that raising might be the best option.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
She's probably not going to have an ace queen or an ace king. Of course, neither should you. But if you raise, especially big, it's kind of pretty difficult for her to proceed without 2 pair or better.
Yeah.
Or unless she has the draw, of course, too. You would hate if you raise and she shoves because you pretty much got a fold, and then if she has a draw. But I don't know. I mean, and if she keeps barreling, if she barrels a turn, it could be like $40 since she's betting 17 and 21. So if you call here and there's 55 on the turns, you might bet like 45. For $45 right now, you might be able to find where you're at, or maybe get her to fold a better hand.
Yeah,
or save yourself money on future streets. So I don't know. I'd be tempted to, especially you're in position on her.
Yeah, looking back, I think raising probably would have been a better idea. I'd at least find out where I was in the hand,
Yeah, I'm almost thinking raising or even folding here. I don't know, but yeah, because that looks pretty strong on her part.
Yeah.
7-way pot. She's putting that in, but
yeah, she's the second one to act. Well, I guess after the small blind and big blind check, then yeah, she's got a lot of people behind her, and she does bet big on the flop, 17 into 21.
Okay, so what happened next?
Well, the turn, we got 55 in the pot going to the turn. The turn is the jack of hearts, and she bets out 25 into a 55.
I still like raising here now. Now she's betting small, which could mean she's trying to keep in the hand, but it almost looks a little scared to me.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I got. I don't know. I was thinking maybe she's got a draw, and I was going back to some of the hands where I've laid down top pair and then found out that I should have held on to it, and so my backdoor spade draw didn't come in, but I called, and then we go to the river, and we got 105 in the pot, and the river's the 7 of clubs. So now it's ace of clubs, 4 of clubs, 7 of spades, jack of hearts, 7 of clubs. So the board pairs, and now I'm starting to think, okay, if she has ace 10 or worse, we're basically splitting. Even if she has ace 4 for 2 pair, that got counterfeited with the 7. If she was on a club draw, it got there. But then she only bets 25 again.
Hmm.
And I remember listening to a pro, I can't remember who it was, but he said usually, I think it might have been Jonathan Little. He's got a podcast, it's called Weekly Poker Hand with Jonathan Little. And I think he was saying that usually if a villain bets on the turn and then on the river the same amount, it's some type of medium strength hand. So at this point, I was thinking maybe I should raise and then get her off a hand because the club draw got there. I played it like a draw. And I might be able to get her off of a split pot or even a better hand.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like a raise right now. I'd like to raise on every street.
Okay.
Including pre-flop, really. Actually, we haven't even mentioned that possibility too.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
But yeah, because you'd hate to. Yeah, it seems like a strong possibility of a chop here.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, I mean, if for some reason she has ace queen, I would think to get her off a chop, you'd have to raise big.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, because if she's a thinking player at all, she probably knows what you're up to, possibly. No, but it looks like your draw got there too, so. I don't know. You could just save yourself. If for some reason she does have a flush and she's just worried that she's not going to get paid anything, you could just call here and avoid, obviously, losing a big pot. But I would be leaning probably towards. Again, it would depend on the villain. You know, someone if I hadn't played against her. So what did you do here, Steve?
Well, I thought about raising, and then I also thought, looking back, I think I should have raised because I hemmed and hawed for a while, and I finally threw in 25 chips, and guess what she turned over?
Deuce 4 off.
Ace king.
Ace king.
Yeah, I didn't put her on that. I didn't think she had ace king.
I guess you could say you get off cheap.
Yeah, I guess. After that, I look back and I think you're right. I think the river would have been the best spot to raise there. Having known what the board ran out, I think she probably would have folded to, like, had I made it like 135 or something, I think she probably would have laid down the ace king there because she even said afterwards, she was like, "Oh man, I hate playing ace king. That's why I didn't raise with it. I always lose with it." I'm like, "Oh."
I wonder raising on the flop what that would have done. Probably she calls and then you can shut it down and not lose any money. So rather than 21, 25, 25, if you had raised it to, yeah, I don't know. That's strangely played a little bit on her part. She probably should not be laying that down at any point. But like I said, if you raised on the flop, 7-way pot. She's got to make her a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have to barrel again on the. I mean, if you're going to raise on the flop, you really should be sort of committed to raising on the turn as well.
Yeah.
But again, this could be. I don't know. Again, we both talked about how we listened to Andrew Brokas's podcast, and he did his theory of 3-betting often is that whatever the worst hands in your calling range should probably be in your 3-betting range.
Yeah.
So here, again, I guess this probably just would have lost you more money because she would have flatted. But 3-3-3, you make it $25 pre-flop.
Yeah.
And again, this hand would be a bad example of it because she's got a big hand that's totally under-repped.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even in position, just passively playing in these limped pots, that kind of hands, especially when you go 7-way to the flop and you only get one pair, you should be beat. A lot of times there. I don't know, yeah. But yeah, like you said, it's interesting that afterwards she says, like, I hate playing ace king or something. So at any point a raise. I think a raise on the river. I would have thought a chopped would be more likely than her having an ace with the big kicker.
Yeah, I didn't put her on ace king, ace queen. I didn't think she had that.
If I thought there was a chance, ace queen definitely occurred to me there. So if ace queen's in her range, I think the river raise, like I said, it would have been pretty big. 25 to 125. That's probably that would probably be the move at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Live
But
and
you
learn.
you can't fold for 25 either. So
Yeah. I folding wasn't in my mind, but raising or calling. And then I thought, well, am I turning a value hand into a bluff here? And I was like, I kind of am. And I'm like, oh, maybe we're gonna chop. And anyways, hindsight's 2020.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. You want me to quickly do a cash hand?
Yeah.
Before we get Travis here. Let's see. I have some interesting ones here.
Okay.
Let's do the one. I have ace king under the gun, and it is 5-5 game, and there is a straddle.
Okay, so it's 5-5-10.
Yeah, 5-5-10. The straddler is this guy. He's a pro. I'm pretty sure he's a pro. He's been playing a lot of poker there the last month. I think he's German, but always has a lot of chips, and he's like real chummy with the guys who I know who are pros.
Okay.
And I don't know if we have too much. Again, just what I consider this the classical pro style, which is just not splashing around and being real gambly, but like when he's in a pot, just putting like maximum pressure on people.
Okay.
And one of the better players there for sure. So I have ace king off, and he is the straddler, and I make it. I can't even remember the suits. I make it 40.
Okay.
And it folds all the way around to him, and he calls.
Okay.
So with the two blinds, there's, I guess there's $90 in the pot going to the flop.
Yeah.
And the flop is ace 10-7 rainbow.
Okay. And what's he do?
He checks.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to get my C bet on here. I think that's pretty standard.
Yep.
And I bet 60.
I like it.
And he quickly calls.
Okay. Okay. Well, I like it so far.
The turn is the 8 of diamonds, and there was also a 10 of diamonds on the flop too. So now there is a backdoor flush draw. There's 2 diamonds out there, so it's ace 10-7-8, and he checks.
Okay, let's see. How much is in the pot? 120 plus 90.
$205, I believe.
Wait, it should be
90 and 120. I'm sorry, 210.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and 8's down, and then he checks again.
He checks again.
Okay.
I should say I started off the hand with $1,460, and he had about $1,600.
Okay. Well, I guess Jack 9 got there or something, but that's pretty random. Yeah, I'd bet again. Probably in the neighborhood of 150, 160.
I decided to check. Like I said, this guy is capable of like to underwrite my hand to increase. I don't think with one pair, the theory is, you're not often going to get 3 streets of value, so you kind of choose your streets. So I thought I would check to make myself to underwrite my hand a little bit and hopefully get paid on the river.
Okay.
And like I said, this guy, even out of position, is tough to play, where he could put me to a difficult decision where I bet 150 here, and he can make it 550.
Okay.
And certainly 10-8 is in his range, or you know what I mean? Like he could have hit just 2 pair.
Okay.
So he could definitely raise. Like I'd like to just bet the river and make it a nice little $700 pot kind of thing. And against this guy, I don't want to play again for stacks with 1 pair.
Yeah. Okay.
So with other players, and I think he's more like when I'm under the gun, he's more likely to defend his range with like Jack 10 suited or something than he is with like ace ace five or ace jack kind of thing, because
Okay.
it performs poorly against my range.
Okay.
Because I am definitely opening less pots than I used to, and I'm sure he's probably noticing this. So my under the gun raising range is pretty strong, probably. So check, and then it is a 5 of diamonds on the river.
So the back door got there.
Yes, it's ace 10, 7, 8, 5. There's 3 diamonds. I think I have the king of diamonds. I think I have a diamond blocker, if I remember correctly. It's not. I do not have the ace of diamonds. And he checks to me.
I'm kind of liking a check here. I guess you could throw out a small value, but I don't know. If he raises here, then you're in such a tough spot. I guess you got to fold if he raises.
Well, I decide I'm going to bet, but make it not bet for value. Kind of make it pretty big. Make it look like I want to get paid off by 1 pair. I've got the nut 1 pair, of course. You're right. I mean, like, he's capable. This is a guy who's capable of raising the river, and he's capable of checking the nuts there too. Probably, I guess. I bet 200.
Okay.
I'm hoping he's got a raggy ace, or he called with 10 king suited, and he's got 1 pair. And although with strong hands, this is a line I take fairly often, in that I bet the flop and then check the turn. So I mean, if he's watching, like, my checking the turn doesn't really necessarily cap my range. I could have a very, very strong hand and, like, just be trying to trap him on the river. But I bet 200, and he takes quite a while, like, studying me, and it looks like he's counting out 200 chips, and then finally he's got a rack. He's got a lot of his chips in a rack, and he puts all the chips in a rack and shoves them all in the middle, all in.
Okay. What's your read on him at this point?
My read on him is that I'm really pissed off that I didn't check back.
Huh. Did he look like he was taking his time to kind of balance his range, or was he, like, leveling you, or was?
He looked like he was thinking. I don't know. I had a sense that I thought for a while he was just deciding whether to call or not.
Yeah.
For the most part, I thought that was what he was doing. But then I also thought that he was, okay, if he's got a nutted hand right now, he's deciding whether to shove all in, trying to decide how strong a hand I have.
Yeah.
Like, if he puts me on ace king, and he's got a straight or a flush or whatever, he's probably going to he would probably shove all in rather than just raising to 500 and hoping to get a little extra value.
I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards a fold here.
So there's I guess I want to say there's $1,770 in the pot, and I have to call $1,160 is what I have written down here.
Okay.
If that's correct. So he has to be bluffing a pretty fair amount here for this to be a profitable call.
Yeah.
Which he is, and I took a long time. This was like a long time. I really thought it out. I took like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And
good for you, man. That's good. You didn't make a snap decision, no matter whether it's right or wrong. At least you took a long time to think about it.
Right. And my thing is, well, if he had a set, or if he had a set or 2 pairs, shouldn't he be betting for, like, value, right, rather than shoving? And yeah, I mean, like, even if he's got 2 pair, wouldn't he be like? Yeah, I thought almost like the last hand we just discussed here, where you raise to, like, just get her off a 1 pair hand. I was thinking he actually had some showdown value. He probably had a pair. He might have ace jack and kind of know where I'm at. And he probably had a really strong idea what I had for a hand and thought he could push me off, because certainly he's got more flushes and straights in his range than I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably not calling with. I could have maybe he said, if the fact that I bet so big reduces the chance maybe that I had like a super strong hand. I don't know how he felt about that.
Well, the only thing that got there was a backdoor diamond or Jack 9, which would he really call that on the flop with Jack 9? Or 9-6 got there.
Yeah, he would call the gutter ball when we're that deep. Sure.
Okay.
For $60 with a chance for a $1,400 payoff.
Okay.
Or I would. I call gut shots when there's two players who are like 200. When I'm playing against a guy and we're both 200 big blinds deep.
Okay.
I call it every gut shot on the flop.
Okay.
For the most part. He could be doing this really like, with 10-7. For like even two pair beats me now here, obviously.
Yeah.
But it really was a great bet by the guy. I almost folded. I think he's really his whole range is doing that. And quickly how certain there's almost the exact same hand I played like 6 months ago, and it's kind of funny to quickly give you, where I had ace king with an ace on board, and it came runner flush, and I was in position, and the guy checked to me, and on the river I bet. It was, really almost the same bet. I bet like 175 or something, and the guy raised to 1,000.
Yeah.
And I was just like, if he had a flush or a straight, he'd lead out because I've got a strong range here. I'd get called. He wants to get called by a pair. So I ended up paying this call. I ended up calling, and the guy had a flush.
Oh.
And it's one of those poker. We were friendly. We were talking about it. I said, man, why don't you, why don't you just bet the river there? I could have checked behind. He would have got nothing. And he's like, well, it was worth. He's like, rather than getting a certain 150, I thought I could get 1,000 at least. 25% of the time.
Yeah.
Almost like the regular, calculations where if he plays it 10 hands and every time he gets 150 for betting it, $1,500 profit. But if he plays 10 hands and checks and only 3 of the times of the 10 gets me to bet and he raises and call, then he's got a $3,000 profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just because, checking the nuts on the river seems to be a questionable move there, I guess. But like I said, if you want to just go for somebody's whole stack, it's a legitimate way to play it.
Yeah, you might only be right 20% of the time, but that more than pays for
right.
You might got a small little bit.
You might be giving up some value there, but especially this guy, I've seen him make a lot of moves. So
I did that in the tournament last night. I turned the second nut flush, and I was pretty sure the guy had top pair. And I checked it on the turn. He checked behind. There was a blank on the river. And then I shoved all in, overbetting the pot. The pot was 2,000, and I think I shoved 3,700. And he timed out. He used his whole time bank, and on the last few seconds he called. And he had top pair with a weak kicker, and I had the flush. And I was pretty sure most of the time he's going to fold, but, and even if he calls only, just 15 or 20% of the time, in the long run, I think that's a profit than just making a small little value bet.
Right. Well, I like this guy's bet regardless because him betting 550 and him betting 1,400 are almost the same.
Yeah.
If I'm going to call 550, if I think, it doesn't necessarily work that way, but I've been learning to do this too, where I'm just, if I have the nuts, someone bets the river rather than raising, a little bit, even though you might lose some value, just shove it in.
Yeah.
Because it even looks bluffier. So
yeah.
Quickly, I went with my read and I said, I think you have a one pair hand. And that was the other thing. One of the first times I had like a physical tell.
Oh.
Like his pulse was just going. He wears a scarf.
Yeah.
I could look up there and his pulse was just going, bananas. Boom, 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 boom. So I called and he said nice hand, and he had 8-9.
Wow.
So he had the open ender and turned a pair. And wow. So it was good. One of
nice call, man. Nice call.
Yeah, that was the other thing, because I'm sure he knows the other pros. Like I told you, I have a reputation there for being just way too sticky, just refusing to like fold. And so that made me think he was less likely to make a move. But in the table, it's always nice to get some praise. If you guys were like, that's the greatest call ever, man. How'd you do that? I would never make that call.
Right on.
For the whole, because, one pair, it's hard to but I really like it, not just because I won, I made the right call, but I really felt I was like, took my time, and I wasn't like bringing in other factors like, fuck, I just bricked 7 straight tournaments. I'm entitled to this hand. You know, I mean, I just thought he's bluffing more than 50% of the time, which makes it, you know, for 1140 for 1160 for 1770 or whatever it was, makes it a call. So, anyways, I was right.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Good for you.
Should we see if Mr. Jonas is ready to chat with us?
All righty, let's do it. Let's call Travis here. Where do we do it? Add people. There we go. Okay, and Travis Jonas. There we go. Add to call. Okay.
Hello.
Hey, there he is. How's it going, Travis?
Not much. What's up, buddy?
Travis, how you doing? This is Mike.
Hey.
Nice to speak with you again.
What's up, guys?
How's your day going?
Not bad. I mean, you know, it's what it is.
It's too early in the morning to assess the day.
Oh no, I get up early. I take care of my mom, so yeah, I'm up with the dawn and getting breakfast for her and everything. But you know, it's just what my day is.
Right on. Cool. Well, thank you coming on.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
So quickly, how I met Travis, just I guess like 2 or 3 weeks ago, playing the event 2 of the LAPC. To my right is a guy who's obviously knows a little bit about poker, and we started talking a little bit. And I found out he was a bracelet winner, and then he entertained me all day with all sorts of stories when he was living back in Vegas as a dealer and a player. And I said, I got to get your phone number, buddy, here. We need to speak on my podcast. So, yeah, that was fun. It was also fun because I got lucky and took all your chips. Are you still stewing over that hand?
You know what? I don't even remember it. I know I got it in good, so I don't care.
Right. No, you lost a flip to somebody else at the end, but I got lucky against you, where we both had top pair. You had king jack, I had king 10, and then I hit runner straight. And it actually wasn't a huge pot, but that was I think that was the only heads up pot we played actually.
Yeah.
It wasn't
bad. You know, it was when I put my money in on that hand. I wasn't in the bad spot. I made you pay for the straight draw. You took the chance. You got there. That's poker. You know, you weren't getting the right price to make the call, but whatever. That's not my problem.
I disagree with your assessment. I also had a flush draw, if you remember. Third diamond hit the turn. Now you checked the turn. You bet the flop.
No, I bet the flop was where you made your bad call. I bet a lot
that's
of
questionable. It was a
top pair with a shitty kicker.
It was a limped pot, and I had position.
But you called a 3-1 bet. there was right. Okay. Yes, you did have backdoor flush draw. Yes, you did have backdoor straight draw, and a top pair with a 10 kicker. But you weren't getting the price to make the call. That's why I made that bet on the flop.
3-1. You could have had a flush draw. I could have been ahead.
True, but
anyways, and then the jack came on the turn, and he had top two pair. But it was also a jack of diamonds, so he just checked.
I have to slow down. I have to slow down at that point because
he just checked. He checked, and I checked, and
which is a good check by you, because if you don't check there, if you bet there, I know you haven't got the flush, and then I pull you out of that pot. So it was a good check.
How do you know he doesn't have the flush if he bets?
Well, it depends on the size of the bet, but I think he would have tried to get more out of me, because if he puts me on the flush draw, there's no way he bets his flush.
Yeah.
If he gets his flush on the turn, he's got to make a bet, but like a medium size or whatever, or he's gonna unless he has a nut flush. If he has the nut flush, he doesn't make a bet at all. Okay. So it's one of those things that if he doesn't have the nut flush, I can push him out because he doesn't have the nut flush.
Okay.
Right.
So there was a lot of mind game I could have played there, but because he checked, there was nothing I could do. My problem with that table was I had 7 coin flips and I missed all of them.
Ugh.
And, you know, you just can't win a tournament if you're missing all your coin flips. No. I had 3 different times where I had people all in on a coin flip, and I lost all of those. Not including the final 2 I got knocked out on. And the guy with the ace-king, he should have never come in on my last coin flip. Especially since he says he puts the guy on the other hand on an ace-king. It's like, you know you're on a coin flip now. I could have deuces and you're a big underdog on that hand.
Right.
You know, but whatever. I don't try and judge how people play because that's how I make money. So.
Right on.
I never care about the results. because I know if I get my money in on a percentage play above my average, then eventually that luck will change. I'll get that lucky. Now, the only hand I got lucky on was the hand when I had the King Jack earlier. And I was drawn so dead to the hand, I didn't realize it. But the way the hand came down, there was no possible way that I could have known he had the hand he had. Do you remember that hand? The King Jack where I had the King of Spades and it come Jack and then King, and the other guy had a set Jacks?
Oh, yeah. I remember that. That was a huge pot. Yeah, you had, like you said, you don't get too married to the results, but that was probably a difficult session because for a while there you just really ran it up. You had all the chips.
Yeah.
And then pretty quickly it went the other way, which, it's happened to all of us.
Yeah, it doesn't, like I said, and the thing is if you don't make those coin flip hands where you're the head, you can't win. You gotta win coin flips in tournaments to win. But I played really well. I don't think I put my money in any time where I was behind. Except for the aces hand when I had the ace queen. But that was just one of those situations that I was too far into the pot at that point.
Okay, that one I don't remember.
Same guy who ended up knocking me out. The low chip stack raised under the gun. I had ace queen. I 3-bet it. The guy with aces behind me, the black guy that ended up taking all my chips, he 4-bet it. But he 4-bet it for an extra 6,000 or 7,000 all in. And I know I'm beat.
You were priced in, yeah.
But yeah, I'm priced in. I think I was getting 4.5 to 1 on the call. So
you get a call.
If he has jacks or lower, I'm on coin flip. If he has kings, I'm in bad position. I mean, my worst possible hand he can possibly have is an aces, but I'm not putting him on aces when the guy under the gun's raising. So I'm like, well, maybe he has ace king and I'm just, whatever. But he shows aces and I'm like, all right, whatever. Nice hand.
Can we step back and
sure.
get your life story a little bit? Like how
right. Okay,
where'd you grow up? Take us to where you grew up to how to get. When did you end up in Vegas?
All right, so I'm playing poker had always been part of my life. We played. I was a nerd. I was a nerd before it was cool to be a nerd. I say I was born 20 years too early because goddamn, all the shit I like, all the 20-year-olds like now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm like the pariah because I'm 44. You're like, oh, you're like my dad's age. I'm like, fuck you. But
let's play some video games.
Right? And I school kids in video games. That's what's funny. It's like, yeah, you're getting beat by your dad. It's like, those mom jokes you guys say, I could actually make them true because I could probably date your mom. I could be your stepdad and still beat you in Halo. But so we'd play the Friday night poker with my buddies, every night or every Friday night, and we did that for a long time. And then I went and I did some dumb shit in my life, like we all do. Ended up in Indianapolis for a while. Came back home, back to California. I grew up in California. Came back to California and I got back into a job in a sign shop because I have that background. And one of the things I had to do was deliveries. Well, if you've ever been in LA doing deliveries and sign, everywhere, it sucks. There's traffic everywhere. It's just ridiculous.
No parking.
There's no, and I'm driving a truck around. So there were times when I would drive by the Commerce. And one of these times it was like, I wasn't going to get back to the shop until like 7 o'clock anyway. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to pull into the Commerce and play a little poker. So I pulled into the Commerce and jumped onto 1 to 5 stud because that's the game I was familiar with at the time. And I won like $60. I'm fucking sold now, right? So now I'm doing
2 days work probably at the time or something, right?
I actually had a really good job.
Okay.
Yeah, I was making decent wage because sign work. What I used to do was a specialty job. It wasn't really well done. Now it is, unfortunately, but
okay.
So it wasn't a lot of money, but it was extra money, and it was money while I was working and bored. Right? I was like, oh, okay, this is fun, and I got that adrenaline rush we all get when we go on our first couple of rushes.
Oh yeah.
So, and it's 1 to 5 stud, winning 60 and 1 to 5 stud. That means you went on a heater.
Yeah.
For like, because I was only there for like an hour and a half or 2 hours. I was winning everything. So I come back a couple times playing stud, and then they were spreading this game called Holdem, Limit Holdem. And I was like, well, what's this? So I sat down and played, and first time I played it, I won. And I understood the grasp of the game pretty quickly. Well, the problem with this whole situation is it started affecting work, because I'd go out on deliveries and come back 2 hours later every time. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm getting stuck in traffic. So eventually, because they can't dispute that, right? This is before like GPS and all that, right? This is all before this. And I ended up finding a better job down near Lake Elsinore in Temecula. And so I went to work there, and I was there for about 9 months. And then they brought in this high school kid. Well, not high school kid. He was young. He was 19 or 20, 18, 19, 20. And had me teach him all the stuff I was doing so he could be my helper. Little did I know I was training my replacement. So I trained this kid, and they're like, okay, we gotta let you go because you're too much money. And I'm like, oh, I see what it is.
Bait and switch, nice.
But on the way back from Temecula to my house every day, because I lived in Riverside at the time, I was driving by the Lake Elsinore Casino all the time. So this is back in '84 when Lake Elsinore was the tournament hub. Like, if you wanted to go to a poker tournament, Lake Elsinore was one of the premier spots. Like, you had all the pros, TJ Cloutier, all those guys from LA that were in the tournament scene back then would come to Elsinore. And that's where I met them all, right? So I met all these guys. I met, oh God, I can't even remember his name. Famous cheater, Vietnamese guy. Men the Master, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like, all you have to do is say she. And I met him, and I met all these guys. And I started playing poker there. And this is at a time when poker was viewed as such a negative. Like, if you told people you played poker for a living, you were looked at as a pariah. People just didn't want to associate with you because they figured you were a degenerate gambler. Which, back then, okay, I kind of was. But it was because I was learning. So I went through the trials and tribulations that we all do going through learning. Now it's much easier because...
Oops. You guys there? Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
You went blank there for a sec. Okay, you're back.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Anyways, yes. Lake Elsinore.
Yeah, so there's so much more information nowadays out there that, you know, people don't have to go through the trials and tribulations of learning poker like we did, where it was just books and just learning, you know, putting time on the tables.
Yeah. So
I put my time on the tables. It took me about 8 months to become a winning player at Lake Elsinore, and I was playing 2 to 4 Hold'em. I was playing, you know, I worked my way up to 3-6, and I was playing pretty well. And I went busted a lot. But one of the things Lake Elsinore had that was amazing, it was one of the best deals I've ever come across, was they had a $20 buy-in tournament in the morning. For that, you got a 20 for 30 voucher in the lot game. You got breakfast. And because you played in the casino, it counted towards your room rate, so you get a $6 room rate on the room.
wow.
I mean, it just didn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
So I ended up actually moving to the Elsinore and staying there full time. And I worked my way up, built a bankroll up occasionally, loaned people money that I shouldn't have loaned people to, you know, all the shit that goes on when you're learning poker. And then I went broke, you know, like we all do. And I needed to learn how to do something else. So I started learning how to deal poker. And I had one of the dealers teach me how to deal and how to shuffle and everything. And I would sit back at midnight on one of the dead tables and just pitch out by myself. Just put it out there and just put flops out and put it out there. And I just did that for about a month and a half. And that was when... And I had dealt a couple of the tournaments they had there. And I had dealt Pan, which is Pangilia. I don't know if you guys know what that game is. It's kind of a gin rummy.
Yeah, I looked up the rules to that recently because they play it at my card room. Sometimes when I get off work at 8 a.m, that's the only thing they're playing. And I'm like, well, I can either sit around for an hour and wait for a Hold'em game to start, or I can learn this game. So I started researching it online, and it's like gin rummy, but you take out the eights, nines, and tens, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you take out the 8, 9s, and 10s, and runs are... And the way it works is, like, runs from Jack, King, Queen, or Ace, 2, 3 are worth money. Threes, any 3 of a suit are worth money.
And spades are worth the most,
And,
right?
well, 3s, 5s, and 7s are worth money.
Okay.
And spades are worth double.
Okay.
So if you had 3 threes of spades, you would get 1 for all of them being 3s. You'd get 1 because they're all the same suit, and then you would double it because they're spades. So you'd get 4.
Okay, and it's played with like 8 decks, right?
Yeah, it's like 8 decks. So it's called mucking it when you're dealing it and stuff. It's a lot of shuffling and stuff. But it's a big Knipsch game. But anyway, so I learned how to deal that, and I was dealing that sometimes too. So I go up to the Rio Poker Tournament, the Carnival of Poker, and I go up to John Schofield, who was the man to see if you were in the tournament business back then. He was the person who did all the hiring. He was the person who had everything. He's pretty much, I don't think he really works in the business as much anymore. I see him around every so often. I saw him at the series last year. But I don't think he does it. But back then, if you wanted to do a tournament, you got a hold of John Schofield, and he brought you 200 dealers. So that's how it worked back then. It was all networking and everything. So I got to talk to John, and he's like, so you dealt before? And I'm like, yeah, I've dealt for years. I'm like, bullshit, my way through it. And he's like, well, can you pass a background check? And I'm like, yeah. Because one of the things most people don't understand is tournament dealers that do on the road can't pass background checks. That's why they're on the road. Because they don't do background checks for any of these guys. Because they're seasonal.
Okay.
They come in, they deal a month, and then they're fired. Right? That's it. It's a big scam. It really is. But, so, I could pass the background check because they wanted me to come in early because they were going to get overflow. And they wanted to have a couple extra dealers in to handle it so their dealers didn't get stressed out for the tournament.
Okay.
So, I'm like, yeah, I could pass it. So, I passed my background check with flying colors because I got nothing bad on my records. And, they had me come in, and I come in like a week early. And about my second day there, I'm dealing, and I'm dealt 1 to 5 stud and 2-4 hold'em at this point. Maybe about 2 hours worth. Nothing serious. Quarter here, quarter there for tips. Nothing big. And then the floor man comes over to me and says, you're one of the tournament dealers, right? I'm like, yeah. He says, all right, come with me. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I just got caught. They did a background check or something, found out I lied about my thing or something. I'm thinking all the bad shit. I don't know. I'm a dumb kid, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I've never bullshitted my way into a job before, and I'm like, I got caught. So I go upstairs, and they walk me into this tournament room. And the tournament room had not been set up yet. But they had all these tables along the side that were folded up, and it was dark. And then in the center of the room, they had one table with about 8 chairs, in the dealer chair. And they had just one huge bright light coming down on it. I swear to God, it looked like a movie set. I mean, that's the only way to describe it. It looked like it was like a boxing ring type thing where it was just dark everywhere else except for the middle. So they sit me down, and now I'm really sweating because I'm like, oh God, I'm going to get like, interviewed or interrogated here or something. They're going to beat the shit out of me. It's like, all right. So they bring me over a rack for the chips and stuff. And your players will be coming in a minute. So he says, you can deal pot limit Omaha, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, fuck. Never dealt it before in my life. I know Omaha, and I understood the concept of the game, but I had never dealt it before in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So people start coming to the table, and a couple of them I don't recognize, and then a couple of them that I do recognize. One of them is Tony D. Now, if you know who he is, he's a very high limit player. I think he's still in the scene. So he comes and sits down, and immediately I'm thinking, what the fuck did I just get myself into? Every one of these players are putting down these manila envelopes, and they're like packed full of shit. And I'm like, what is this? Like clothes or something? I don't know what's in there. Like shirts or... It looked too bulky to be paper. Yeah. Right? I'm like, what the hell's in there? So a couple people put them down and put a chip in front of them. It's like a $5 chip on one of them. One guy puts a $100 chip. I'm like, oh. And for the first time, I looked down in my rack, and I have no $1 chips, which blows my mind. And I have no quarters. Because back then, you break the change into quarters. But all I have is $5 chips, $25 chips, and $100 chips. and I've got like 4,000 in my rack, and I'm like, this is
Wow.
gonna be sucks. Okay, so I'm like, what did I just get myself into? Sure enough, over in the 3 seat sits down Johnny Chan. And this is right after Rounders had come out, and this is Johnny fucking Chan. Back then, he was the god.
That's his middle name too.
Yeah,
Yes.
Johnny fucking Chan, right? And it's like he sits down, and this is the god of poker at this point. You know, this is before all the internet stars, all the, Moneymaker and everything. This is who was poker. Like, if you saw him and you were in the poker world, it was like, oh. So he sits down, and puts down in the middle envelope, and he then opens it up, and he starts dumping it out. And out roll out these stacks of hundreds. Just big fat stacks, each one probably 5,000. He's probably got 10 of them in there. And he starts pulling out these flags, which are called, they're $5,000 chips, but they call them flags. So he pulls out a stack of flags and a stack of $1,000 chips. And he takes the middle envelope, throws it over his shoulder, and a couple other guys sit down, and I say, okay, guys, listen. This is my first time dealing this big of a game. If you have any problems with my dealing, please tell me, and I will fix it immediately. He's like, all right. Yeah. He's like, yeah, you guys are in complete control. This is your table. I'm like, wow, finally, a dealer understands his role in life. I'm like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, I guess I said something right. Whew. So I ended up getting locked into that box for 12 hours. They corrected me on a couple of my hand positions and how to hold the deck properly. But most of it wasn't bad. I didn't mess up at all. They taught me about how to run it twice. And there wasn't as much running twice as there was insurance back then. What run it twice now is, I don't know if you guys know the background behind that, but guys would actually sell pieces of their hands to the rail back then.
Wow.
So instead of running it twice and getting the percentage out, one guy would go, well, I'm a 3-1 favorite. So if I lose, you give me 3-1. If not, I'll give you a third. So that's how people would hedge their bets.
Okay.
And they would sell action on the rail. But running it twice became the norm because it made the game much faster, number one. And number two, it didn't have extra outside money coming in and out of the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
They're not passing chips over their shoulder.
Yeah, it made it a much better situation. But mostly for the speed of the game. But that's the background for that, if you guys didn't know.
No, I didn't. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's what it actually came from. But so I dealt the game for 12 hours, no breaks, no bathroom break, no dinner break.
Wow.
Yeah, it was brutal, but I learned more in that 12 hours than I probably would have dealing for 10 years. Because I'm dealing to the top professionals who know everything they're supposed to know.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is they got to know me in that 12 hours. So for the next 6 years while I dealt the circuit, every time I'd go to the large table, the big table, they'd lock me in. They're like, no, make the other dealer go by. And the problem with that was, you don't make much on the high limit tables. I'd say I made 50 to 150% more on any other table but the high table.
Yeah. Now, why? I remember you mentioned that when we talked on the phone. They just don't tip, or what?
Well, the way the tipping works is, okay, they take a time pot. Each player drops in a $500 chip into the rack next to the dealer. And my job is to break one of those chips up, that's why I have all the hundreds in it, into a smaller amount. And what happens is each half hour, the time would be $30 or whatever it was, right? And then there would be an additional 20 taken out for the dealer. So it's $50 an hour, or half an hour, for as long as they play. And then 20 goes to me. So while I'm making $40 an hour, which isn't bad, I would make a lot more on, say, 2 to 5 stud or 2 to 5 no limit or 10-20 limit hold'em or
every hand you're just getting tipped $1.
Yeah, or more. I mean, I've had people, like on the 5-10 pot limit games, I would be making, $20 tips here and there, left and right.
Yeah.
And back in that day, it was more about speed. The faster I could deal out more hands, the more money I would make.
Yeah.
Which is why poker dealers don't share tips.
Right.
Except for in tournaments.
Okay.
Because the slower deals would actually hurt us.
Yeah.
The reason they share tips in the pit is because if you didn't share tips in the pit, nobody would want to deal Let It Ride or Big Six, which is the big wheel, or any of those. Because you wouldn't make any money.
Yeah.
Everybody would want to deal blackjack because that's where the money is. If you're ever dealing like in a casino, always want to deal blackjack if you can get your own tips. That's where all the money is. Nobody tips anywhere else but blackjack.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But so that was my start of poker, and I dealt the circuit for 7 years. And I dealt just straight dealing for 2 years. And then I dealt and played for a couple of years. And then I would deal hard. I would deal and play. It would just depend. But what I did was I had what's called a floating bankroll, where I would deal 4 events, make $2,000, and then spend $500 to buy into an event.
Ah, okay.
And if I won, then I'd go back to work the next day. No fuck. That way the management always knew I was never going to skip out on them.
Yeah, yeah.
So I could keep doing this, at other places. Because they knew I wouldn't go out and party. I wouldn't do any of that. I would come back in the next day, be ready to work. Whether I won 100,000 or if I won 50,000 or 20,000, or 10,000, whatever. It didn't matter. It was just part of the thing. And if I got into the main event through a satellite, because I would play a lot of satellites, I would sell off 30% of my action because I stemmed to usually make about 3,000 for the final event. So I'd sell off 30% of myself, make the 3,000, and now I'm free rolling the final event.
Huh.
Because now I don't have to deal it. I make my 3,000 anyway, and if I bink it, I make even more.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Were you now a full-time dealer at this point?
No,
or you were pretty much a full-time player, but you go back to dealing when you needed money, or just.
Well, I would deal the circuit, which was the tournament circuit at that time. Right now, I'm not doing anything. I'm semi-retired because I'm taking care of my terminally ill mom.
Right. Yeah.
But when I was doing it, I would work 5 events a year. Each event was like 30 to 36 days. So I had like 2 weeks off at the end of the year or whatever. But it was pretty much the whole time. And I would do just what I said. I would work 4 or 5 days, play an event. Work 4 or 5 days, play an event. Work 4 or 5 days, play an event.
That sounds like a pretty fun schedule there.
It was an interesting idea, and not very many. And the problem was, not many dealers could actually handle playing, because most dealers are fish. One of the funniest things you can hear about is best seat in the house. An open seat at 6 white shirts. Because dealers will sit there and they'll watch these people play the most horrendous shit, get lucky, and then get it in their head that they can play like that. And most dealers, if they paid attention, could be really good players. And that's what I learned. I learned by watching all the pros play. Yeah. I paid attention. Dealing cards is easy. It really is. Once you get the mechanics down, the rest of it's just paying attention at the table. And that's what made me a good dealer. I always knew what was going on at my table. Not a single time did anybody ever get over on me on a table. Like a fake bet or a bad play or anything like that, or not putting the right amount of money in or any of that shit. Never happened on my tables.
You were on it.
Yeah.
You must have had a couple angle shooters where the floor had to come over and, sort out some mess.
But there were always angle shooters like Henderson. Frank Henderson was one of the most angle shooting mothers I've ever seen. This guy pretty much invented most of the angles you see out there. Like the fake where you pick up chips and you make a motion to forward to bet, but then you knock your chips down on the table to check. That's his.
Huh.
That's his. He invented that shit. I saw him do that back in like 2000. And now the high limit players are doing, but it's all angle shooting to get, whatever. The best one I ever saw was the one where he went up, he picked up the chips. As he went to go, he slid them underneath his hand, right? And put the chips out because he looked like he was going to put a raise out, right? So he goes out and he puts out these, he flips them back without looking, drops the chip on the table, and the other guy immediately pushes all in. Right, because the other guy bet, and he looked like he was raising. So he was like, oh, I'm going to raise. He's like, oh, you can't move all in, I just called. He's like, I saw you pick up a bunch more chips. Like, no, I just called. See, look, what's in the pot.
Okay.
So now, look at that information you just got.
Yeah.
That's stupid information, And it's an angle shot, but unfortunately, it was a legal angle shot. Because it's not his fault that the other player wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did get a warning on that one. But I mean, I've seen so much shit. I've seen people try and short pots before. That was my favorite. I saw a guy try and short a pot for $5,000 by using a white dollar chip under a stack of $5,000 chips.
Wow.
And there's no white chips on the table. There's no dollar chips, right? But the flags were white. So he tried to put a dollar chip underneath the other chips. And the way he did it was he put it down, and then he put two more stacks next to it to kind of hide it from the other player.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, the bet is, what would I think? I think it was like I said, it was like 44,999. It's like, what? I'm like, yeah, this dollar doesn't count. One of the other players at the other table says, only Travis would catch that. Anybody else, not going to catch that. Travis, he catches that shit instantly. Yeah, I got known for being a really good dealer and the most honest dealer. I was telling a story the other day. I was dealing a pot, really big pot, like $200,000 pot. Pushing the chips. And we wear white, long sleeves most of the time, or we did. Now they have short sleeves a lot of the time. But as I'm pushing the chips, a chip actually slides into my cuff, into my shirt. And I'm a big guy, so I have puffy shirts. I knew for a fact I could deal the rest of the down and never have that chip pop out. But of course I'm not going to do that. I push the chips. I go, hold on a second, hold on. I'm sitting there with my hand above, and I'm shaking, and out pops this $1,000 chip. I'm like, here you go. Sorry about that. And they're like, only Travis would give back a $1,000 chip that went into his cuff on accident. Only he would. None of these other guys would do that. Only he would. So, yeah,
so were you a Vegas resident at this point, or were you like playing LA card rooms, but going to Vegas to do deals sometimes?
I lived in Vegas for about 9 years. But, I mean, like, for, 5 of them, I just rented a room. Because I was gone, 8-9 months of the year.
Right? Yeah.
So it was pointless for me to have an apartment that would just sit there. So I just rented a room and just threw all my shit into it, and I'd come back and, relax for a couple days or whatever, play on my computer, and then go back out on the road. And I did that, for 5 years. Eventually, I ended up settling in Vegas, but yeah.
Did you travel at all? You're mainly a cash game guy, so you probably stayed in Vegas. You weren't traveling around for tournaments and that kind of thing.
When I got no, I would travel to some tournaments. Like I did the World Poker Open until they stopped doing it hardcore. I'd go to LA a lot just because it was close. But yeah, I stayed in Vegas because it was just the games were great back then. But I haven't played in 5 years, and I know the games are still good places, but. Arizona, we'd go to Arizona every so often, too. Arizona was really good.
And then, of course, at some point here, you got a pretty nice score in a bracelet. Can you tell us about that event? And
that was actually at the beginning of my...
Okay.
So, it's 2001. I'm dealing the World Poker Open. I'm dealing... And every time I come to this final table, this guy, Jason Firrithicorn, he's not in the scene really much anymore, but I just was his dealer that day, and we were in a 3-man dealer team, so I'd come in every hour and a half, and every time I come to the table, he would just bust out 3 people. So I was his dealer. And he's like, if I win this, I'm tipping you so good, Travis. I'm like, all right, whatever. You hear that shit all the time.
Yeah.
And you never really comes through, but I'm like, all right, whatever. So we get to the end, and I end up dealing him the winning hand that wins the tournament.
Nice.
And he's like, dude, are you going to the series this year? I'm like, yeah. He says, I'm putting you in the dealer's event. I'm like, all right, cool. Don't talk about it here because, then I'll have to give up $150 to the crew, but talk about it off the table. So I get a call because I get to Vegas. Now, the dealer's event usually happens a day before all the other events. So I get a call a week before he gets to Vegas, or before the tournament starts. He's like, yeah, I'm coming. No problem. I'm like, all right. So 2 days before the event starts, and he goes, by the way, I was talking to my friends, and they say I shouldn't put you in the tournament. I'm like, oh, well, all right. He's like, well, I'll put you in for half. I'm like, well, shit, if I'd have known that, I'd have come up with $250. I don't want to put myself in. So I ended up talking to a friend of mine, and he ended up putting me in the other half. And just before, he gave me $250. Let me borrow $250. And just before the event started, he says, "I'll tell you what, I'll put you in the whole way, but I want 50%." I'm like, all right, you know what? Just because I don't want to owe my buddy any money at the end of this tournament, I don't ever like to borrow and I never like to owe, but I wanted to play the event now because I got hyped for it.
Yeah.
And this is my first big tournament. Like most of the tournaments at this point I've ever played were like $100 buy-in max. So $500 for me was like a $10,000 event for some people. It was just out of my range.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is before I started playing for a living too. So this is just I had just been working. And I get there and I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever, we'll do that. So it was a Limit Holdem event. It was about 400 people this year. And it was the first year they gave a bracelet. And I got to the final table with the chip lead and never lost it and just destroyed them.
Nice.
Like, it was just sick. It was like one time I had a set of queens and this guy had ace queen and it was top board, but he never stopped raising me in the pot.
Wow.
It's like,
wow.
I bet he'd raise. He raised, I re-raise. And we would, so 5-match limit, right? And I'm like, all right, call. And he never stopped raising me on that hand. And it's like, I wasn't showing any bluffs. I was always showing the best hand. It's like, how do you put in that much money on every street when there's no straights, there's no nothing out there with just top pair? It's just like you got to put somebody on something,
Wait,
like
so he had ace queen, you had pocket queens, and then the case queen came out, and
right.
It just went bet, raise, and it just kept going like that the whole way.
Until I had pretty much all his chips, and it was just like,
wow.
I'm like, all right, thank you for the gift.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning the tournament and got my bracelet. And the sunny side note on that was because I'm a big guy, the bracelets didn't fit me, so they had to give me one of the other bracelets they had that had the biggest chain they could find. And it was actually too big for me. And the side note of this, even though this was the cheapest tournament and the cheapest prize out of the events, right? I got the most expensive bracelet of the year. Except for the final event, of course, because it has diamonds and shit. But yeah, my bracelet was worth more than any of the other bracelets because of those extra chain links.
That's cool. How much how much did you win after the 50% cut?
It was 42,000 total. So he got 20,000. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, do you want to do any other tournaments? Or it's like, no, we're good. And he then pieced out. I was like, oh. Wow, really?
I just shipped the one event.
Talk about that's a hit and run right there, right?
It was. What sucks about it was meant to be a tip. He should have got none of it.
Yeah.
At least the proper thing to do there is to toss me back 10 and say, okay, play a couple more events, do whatever, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna keep the whole 20 for himself. Like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, all right, whatever. And I find out later it's because he went broke. The tournament he had just won 2 weeks before.
Uh-huh.
He blew all that money.
So he's a degenerate gambler as well.
He was total degenerate.
Okay, a lot of these guys we know of their degeneracy. With some of them, I didn't know Johnny Chan had a problem there. I wonder if he was a sports bettor or what his deal was.
It's hard to tell with him.
Or poker too. I mean, you win $1 million and you just want to play the highest stakes cash and run it up.
It's hard with with Johnny, but I don't know. I would have to say it's probably sports. Because it's the most hidden thing that you can do.
Yeah, that's true.
Like TJ Cloutier it's the crap pit.
Right, that I've heard, yes.
It's like, and the funny thing is you'd be surprised if you did a poll online. You could actually poll every single poker player in the world who owes who TJ owes money to. You'd be surprised what that number is. That's got to be up there. And it's not a huge number. It's like 200, 300 every so often, from other people. But it's like he got me I ended up getting my money back from him, so I'm one of the few.
Oh, you did loan him money, wow.
Oh, yeah, well, because back then, I'm at the plaza, I had just won the 20,000, I sent back 10,000 to my mom to pay for my truck and everything, and kept 10, and then paid another person I owed a little bit of money to, and I ended up, after all said and done, ended up with like 6,000, but everything was free and clear then.
Nice.
I was completely free and clear. I didn't owe any money to anybody, including my mom for my truck or anything. And I'm just like, we're done.
Yeah.
Which is a nice feeling, especially when you're in a situation like I was. But this is the beginning of my career, and the bracelet actually won me more money later. So I'll tell you a bracelet story. So I'm sitting there dealing. This is later on during that year. I think I'm in LA, and I'm dealing a $1,500 Limit Holdem event. And Phil Hellmuth comes to the table, and he sits down. And this is before the big fields. So it wasn't uncommon to see a bunch of pros sitting at the same table on a tournament, especially a higher limit one.
Yeah.
And 1,500 back then was much higher limits, Sure. Most of them were 500. So he sat down, and there were 6 other bracelet winners at the table. And he's like, I cannot believe I'm sitting at a table with 7 bracelet winners. And without a stride, I said, no, Phil, I'm sorry, you're wrong. There's 8 bracelet winners. And I kept dealing.
Uh-huh.
Just nonchalantly.
Yeah,
just said it. Phil, the egotistical motherfucker that he is, right? He, of course, gets in my face a bit about it. And he says, no, I'm sorry, you're wrong. I know everybody at this table, and only 6 of them, plus me, have bracelets. He's like, and in fact, I'm willing to bet $2,500 on it. I said, really? He's like, yes. Not that you have $2,500 because you're a dealer.
What a dick.
So I look at him, I go, you know what? I'll take that bet after this hand. The table's laughing because some of them know I have a bracelet. Right? Table's laughing. They're like, leave the dealer alone, Phil. Quit playing with him. He's like, no. Let's do this properly. So I finished the hand. Out. I pull out, because I had just won 2 super satellites, so I had like 8,000 in chips in my pocket. Mm-hmm. So I pull out a stack, I go, 2,500, he goes, and I've still got the stack, I put the rest of the stack in my pocket. He's like, all right, yeah, okay, I'll bet. So he pulls his money out. I said, okay, who do you know for sure has a bracelet? He's like, him, and him. He doesn't have one, and he doesn't have one. I said, you're right. I pull out my bracelet, but the dealer does.
Bravo, dude. Bravo.
He got so fucking pissed. He gets up from the table, beat red, and walks out the room. Let his chips just blind away. It was the best comeback on him. And what's funny about that? 2 years later, he had to interview me for ESPN, and he didn't remember me.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So he's interviewing me. This is at the 2002 World Poker Open. This is when I got into the final 20 of the $10,000 event. Mm-hmm. But I missed. I took a bad beat by Andy Block. Once again,
I got your hand in front of you. I say you got 19th in that one.
Yep. And only got 9,000 and change out of that. So $10,000 event, I got less than money back, but whatever.
That's weird, yeah.
Yeah, it was back in the day. But I satellited in, so I still made money. But so I'm dealing, or he's interviewing me, and after the interview, he's like, "Wow, for a dealer, you really know a lot about poker." So I should have been playing for a while. He's like, I just thought all dealers were idiots. I said, no, we're not, Phil. And I'm sitting there waiting for him to recognize me. Yeah. I want him to recognize me so much that he steams out.
Yeah.
He doesn't, and the whole time he doesn't. And it's funny because you have to understand Phil. As much as I think he's such a pompous ass, that man has marketed himself better than anybody else in poker.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
2002, the $10,000 event. They had cordoned off the area so you couldn't even get near the tables, right? Like they do with the series, they made it so you can't get near as a spectator.
Yeah.
They have the podium in the middle, and they had 4 tables out there. And the podium had a chair on it so that the tournament director could sit in the middle. Phil, being the pompous ass that he is, drags another chair, because he got knocked out already, into the middle, and then sits with them. Why does he do this? Because there's cameras rotating around the tables, right, to catch action for the he wants to be on camera still.
Yeah.
It's brilliant if you think about it, because only he could get away with something like that.
Yeah.
And then of course, since he's already there and everything, that's when ESPN picks him up to do the interviews and shit. But yeah, I mean, he's, as much as a pompous ass and everything, he really has marketed himself to be in such a good position in poker. When he saw it, he saw it back then.
Yeah, he's done it well.
Yeah, he's done it well. So
Steve several times has gone streaking at PGA events. That's his way of getting in
That's
the camera.
the way I get in on the camera, yeah.
But it's,
I just throw the twig and berries out there, and I figure the cameras can't resist this,
We got to do that like a ninja, the Ultimate Ninja contest, because that's where you get all the press. You actually have to be able to do it.
I think I would flop on the first event.
Which might actually be even funnier, you know. You definitely get a couple YouTubes out of
that. Now you were backed by Phil Ivey at one point, right?
Yeah. So 2002. This is coming off of my series win. I go to the World Poker Open. This is where the $10,000 event happens. And the very first event, somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, do you want to play in the event?" I said, "Well, yeah, but I didn't bring any money with me. I usually work the first couple." He's like, "Well, no, I'll put you in for half if you get somebody else to take up the other half." And I'm like, all right.
Okay, sure.
We'll see. So I walk up and Phil knows me. This is before his big breakout. This is before, I think 2002 was the year he did the big breakout. That's when he won an event, or got really deep in a bunch of events and won an event and won like $1 million that year.
And then 2003, he was at the final table with the Moneymaker.
Right. So 2002, we go to, I go to Phil and I'm like, "Hey, you want to take half of me?" He's like, "Oh yeah, you won that bracelet last year." I'm like, "Yeah," because I'm still wearing it, So I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, yeah, I'll back you. What are you going to play, the 500 limit?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I jump into the 500 limit, and I ended up taking third.
Nice.
For 24,000, I think it was, or something like that. And we divvied it up, and the other guy didn't want to take any more of my action. Which, once again, I'm like, wait a minute, I thought this is how it works. I hit one, then you put me in a bunch more. And he's like, no, I just, I'll take the money and run. I'm like, all right. So I walk over to Phil, and I hand him the money. It's like, oh, no. Here, you're going to play this event, this event, this event. And then you're going to play some satellites. I'm like, that's how this works. All right. So so he ends up putting me in, he ended up putting me in the $1,000 limit, $1,000 something else. I ended up playing 4 events total. I ended up satelliting my way into the 10,000.
Nice.
But out of the 4 events total I played, I cashed in 3.
Wow.
So
that's a good run.
Yeah, so I played really well in 2002 at the World Poker Open. So he took all the money we had won from that, and he rolled it over into commerce, and I fell on my face. And just didn't run for me well. So at the series, he says, "All right, what we're going to do is we're going to let you play the employee event," which I got deep, and I almost moneyed, but I got knocked out really close to the money. And then he started putting me in daily super satellites. This is the first year I didn't work the series. He put me in daily super satellites and night super satellites, all single bullets. I didn't play it, I didn't buy in, so there were 225s, and that was it. I played every one of them, and I cashed in 11.
How many did you play?
So I don't know, however many there was in the month, probably 60.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely made money in the round. I made like 90,000 for us.
Wow.
Plus the $10,000 buy-in for the series. So basically, I paid for his World Series completely, including his final event, which he ended up cashing in, including all the events he played. And the funny thing is that every time I'd cash in a $10,000 seat, he'd go on the next day to win a big event. So it was like, because he knew he's free rolling.
Yeah.
So if you look at his results compared to mine, it was like, I win at 10,000, I win at 10,000, he wins. And then I'd go 2 or 3 more days, and I'd win at 10,000, I'd win at 10,000, then he'd win. So,
but yeah, good partnership right there.
Yeah, and then he got big, and he decided he wanted in the partnership. All right, whatever. And because I was white, I guess I didn't have that brother credentials, which is okay. No, I have no ill will to him. I knew him way back. I also got to watch him play. When I was at Commerce between tournaments and stuff, I got to sit behind him and watch him play 30-60 stud and 40-80 stud. And it's scary how good he is at stud.
I've heard that. Scary. I've heard he's really, really good.
Oh, it's scary. He played stud. It's like, okay, you see whole cams, but you don't see everything that he plays. I got to see every hand he played. I got to sweat him for a month and a half. I would take any amount of money I have and back him in any stud game he ever wanted to play.
I remember years ago, Daniel Negreanu came out with that challenge for himself. He said he'd play anybody in any game for $100,000. The most he's going to risk that year was $3 million. And he said, I'll play anybody in any game except I won't play Ivy in stud.
Yeah,
that was his whole stipulation. That was the only hang up right there. He was all, I won't play Ivy in stud.
It's scary how good he is in stud.
Yeah.
It's just, and this is 40-80. This isn't, 3-600 like they're playing now.
Yeah.
And to see him play stud back then, it was just, I was in awe. I've never, to my life, seen anybody play the game as well as any game. And I'm talking PLO, no limit hold'em, anything. Any game as well as he played stud.
Mm.
Scary good.
That's awesome.
It sounds like, so did you have any, I don't know, it's kind of, well, maybe it's bad taste to talk about money here, but we kind of got on the subject a little bit, and you talked about how you'd made some good investments and really handled your money well that you made in poker.
Yeah.
So I know you said you went busto a little early, but once you became a good poker player, you kind of...
Well, no, you go bust a couple times, I think. I think that's kind of what, if you can do it early, right, if you can do it early in your career versus later, it's much better because you learn money management. I went bust. Yeah, after 2002 series, I went busted again.
Okay.
Craps tables got me. And then 2004, I went busted again. But after that, I started really taking my money and making it better. But the problem with that was, so 2004, the reason I went busted was because I started with $300. I'm going to tell you the best weekend of my poker career.
Okay.
Or my gambling career, not my poker career. So I start with $300. I'm getting ready to deal the 2004 series. Up to this point in my life, any poker tournament I've ever played, I always had somebody backing me in some part of it. Because I always played better with that. But the problem is you give up a lot of your money too.
Yeah.
So if you win $100,000 or whatever, you're only getting 50.
Sure.
So, and you did all the work. So I'm sitting there with $300, and I'm staying at the Golden Gate downtown.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest, those rooms back then, they're small, but they're nice.
Yeah, and you could get it for $40, $50 for a night. Yeah.
No, it's even cheaper than that. Like during the weekdays, it was like $20, $21, and you could actually rent the room for a week and it'd be cheaper.
Oh.
So it was like, yeah, and if you're living, if you're not living in Vegas at the time, it's great. And this is before the series, so my money was really scarce, so I had to make sure. So I paid my room for 2 weeks, and I walk across the street to go to the Fremont Street, which is down the road from the Golden Gate, and because they have a really good Chinese buffet. This is back before Panda Express. They had orange chicken, so it was awesome, So I walked across the street. And as I'm walking across the street, I look over at the Las Vegas Club, and their craps table was empty. Now, that's my nemesis. That's my Achilles heel. If I see an empty craps table, it's the best because I get faster rolls done. I don't have to deal with other people fucking up with my dice. I'm a little superstitious on that,
Mm-hmm.
People putting their hands down and all that shit. Just, let the dice hit where they're supposed to hit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an empty table. So I jump in, I buy in, and it's a $1 table. It's cheap as shit. I think actually it was a quarter table, to be honest. But, whatever. 25 cents, by the way. I'm not talking about $25. We'll get to that one. So I sit down, I buy in for $100, which I'm not expecting to spend the 100, but it's just, it's what I bought in for. And I ended up running it up to about 2,600.
Wow.
And it was off of, I parlay when I do things, so I put like $1 each C&E, and I'd hit it. I hit a yo, and I'd parlay it to a horn, and I'd hit it again, and I'd half parlay it at that point, and then I'd hit it again, and then I half parlay it again, and then I hit it again. So my start on my roll, I'm up like $600.
Wow.
So then I started my roll, and I just pressed heavy, and I rolled for like 18, 19 minutes, and I just kept pressing and hitting a couple good hard ways and stuff that I doubled and parlayed, and ended up with 2,600. I'm like, woohoo! Right?
That's a nice little run.
I'm like, this is awesome, right? Off a 25-cent table. So I'm like, I'm happy, right? I'm like, shit, I'm going to go eat now. I got enough money before the series. Maybe I'll play an event. So I'm walking down the street. I get to the Fremont Street. And as I'm walking in, there's another craps table. And it's empty.
Uh-oh.
Now you're seeing a pattern here, right? So I'm like, fuck it. I'm on a roll. Let's go try it. So I buy in for $300 because now I've got extra money. I'm up to 2,800. So I buy in for 300. I still have 2,500. I'm like, I'm still ahead. And I go on another one of my little runs. Mind you, in the years I've played craps, I've never had a longer roll than 20 minutes. Okay. Ever. You hear about these people with hour-long rolls? If I ever hit an hour-long roll, I will empty the bank. I'm very aggressive when I play.
This conversation is very dangerous for me. I was a craps degenerate for many years, but
yes.
I'm getting excited here too, actually. Yes. But
but you understand what I say when I say press aggressively. You understand that concept.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, the biggest roll I was going to say, I once bought in for 300 and got it up to 11,000 in one roll. And because I was really aggressive, but just for the children out there listening, then the next weekend, the next weekend I lost like 14,000. So I mean, it was like by far the biggest day that I've ever had there.
And then the biggest
and I was had greater debt. A week later, it's pretty late. I think I don't know how long I rolled for. I remember some guy was playing the don'ts and hit pass 3 times, so I already had money up, and then he passed the dice to me because he was broke, and then I passed like 13 or 14 times, whatever.
Yeah, I turned $300. No, I understand. So I turned $300 into 12,300.
Oh my God!
And the thing about casinos that if you have over 10,000, they will tax you if you try to cash out.
Oh,
right.
So I cashed out for 9,500. Because I'm staying right down the street. I can just come back tomorrow and cash out the rest.
Yeah.
So, me being the degenerate gambler and stopping gambling and eating dinner and then going to bed was such a win for me. It's unbelievable. But I did that. Instead of going out the rest of the night and playing all night long, I went to bed.
That's the good thing about the orange chicken. It's very heavy. It makes you
very heavy and everything.
If you had tuna sub, you probably would have had a 36-hour session at Tiger and lost every penny.
I took the orange chicken back to my room to eat it, watching TV, and then just went to sleep. I said, fuck it. So the next day I walk in, and I'm planning on cashing in the rest of it. It was like 3,300. And I walk by, and of course, another craps table, and of course it's empty. And I'm like, I gotta go for it. So I drop 500 on the table this time, and I run that up to another 7,000.
Wow.
Or 6,300. It was just under 10,000 when I cashed out. Now I've got 25,000 in my pocket.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, what the fuck? This was $300 yesterday. I cashed out. I call my buddy. He's like, dude, come play the Bellagio event with me. I'm like, yeah? He's like, yeah, why not? I'm like, all right. So I come by into the Bellagio event. It was a $500 no limit. I cash in that for 11,000.
Oh, wow.
I tell my buddy about this. He's like, there's no way you're on this rush. You had that money before. I said, dude, I'm up 33,000 in a day and a half.
You're like, dude, look at my ruby slippers I'm wearing right now. Where do you think I got the money from?
He's like, you're not on that big of a rush. I said, I am. He's like, come to the craps table with me at the Bellagio. I'm like, no, dude, it's like $10 tables. I can't play that high. He's like, you're on a rush. You'll play that high. I'm like, all right. So I go over to the craps table, the 10,000 I buy in for 1,000, and I turn that into 13,400.
Oh my God.
Now I'm up almost 50,000.
This is the shit they make movies out of, you know?
It was surreal. I'm like, he's like, you gotta go play the WPT in Rio right now. I'm like, right? Yeah, you think so? He's like, yeah. Take 12 dimes with you. Go play it. Just buy in and play it. I'm like, you think? He's like, yeah. I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. So I drop the rest of the money in a safety deposit box. And I take 12,000. This is before, this is after the September 11th, but they weren't really checking for large quantities of money back then.
Yeah.
So carrying 12,000 on your person, it's not supposed to be done, but they weren't checking for it. It wasn't like a full pat down. And I'm a white guy, so, I wouldn't get pat down anyway. So I get to the airport, I get in there. Now I get to Rio, and I get there kind of early. It's like 9:30. And I ask if there's any rooms. I'm like, oh no, there's no rooms in the entire city. I'm like, what? It's like, no, there's no rooms anywhere. There's a convention and then there's a tournament. There's nothing anywhere. I'm like, I didn't think this through. So I'm like, well, there's got to be somebody I know I can bunk with. Because, that was kind of the norm back then. I'm like, I'm not going to sweat that much. So I'm like, I'm walking around now, bored. Because now I'm like in the casino and I got nothing else to do. And I walk over and they're about to start a one-table satellite for the final event. It's $1,000 buy-in. I'm like, fuck it, I'll play it. So I play this one-table satellite for $1,000. I win my seat.
Nice.
So now I've got 11,000 bonus in my pocket because now I've won the seat for the final event. And I walk over to the craps table because, of course, it's empty. Are you seeing a pattern here, right?
Yes.
Right.
I buy in for 1,000, immediately lose it. I'm on tilt now, so buy in for another 1,000, immediately lose it. Buy it in for another 1,000. Now I hit my rush. I turn that 1,000 into, I think it was 19.6 total.
Wow.
The floorman comes over to me and goes, "Hey, sir, do you have a player's card?" I was like, "No, I just got here." He's like, "Here, let me give you a player card. Where are you staying here?" I said, "Oh, I haven't even got a room yet. They didn't have a room here for me." So I was, "Oh, here, wait a minute. Let me get you a suite."
Oh, we found one.
We found you a suite.
Nice.
Let me comp you full tournament, full weekend on a comp in the suite. Plus, here, take 20,000 of our money. No, really, just take it. Just take it. I'm like, this is not happening. So, I ended up playing the event. Didn't do real well. I got knocked out pretty quick. I made the day 2, but I never had any chips. I just limped around. I went card dead for like 7 hours at the first day.
Oh.
Like at the end, just nothing. Like not only did I have nothing, I could never make a play on the table I was on. Because somebody else in front of me would make a play or I was in the wrong position.
Yeah.
Like I could never do anything. So I lost like 2/3 of my starting stack the first day. And then the second day I just couldn't do anything. And then the one hand I had pocket nines I raised. And, I got called by an ace-7, and he flopped a 7 on the flop and pushed all in on me, and I caught an ace on the turn. Yeah. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's my tournament. Yeah. But, which is funny because I remember that, because it was this weekend. Yeah. So I fly back home, back to Vegas, and my buddy Sam was like, "So, how'd you do?" I said, "Well, I lost the tournament, but I came home $23,000 richer, plus I won my seat, so I'm technically $30,000 ahead." He's like, "Wait a minute, let me get this straight. You lost, but you won." I'm like, yeah, I guess. So I started that series. I said, you know what? I'm going to play the series all on my own this year. And I started the series with 68,000. And I put away 10. So I ended up having just under 60. And I played all the events I wanted to play. And I face-palmed every one of them. But in the end of the day, I played the entire series, every event I wanted to play, for $300.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because that's what it was. And the problem with that is when you tell a non-gambler and somebody not in the business that, you did this, they look at you and go, "Oh, you had 6," like my mom. She's very frugal with money and everything. And, she heard this story because I had mentioned it before. And she always looks at me like I'm a degenerate gambler with that. I said, "You don't understand, Mom. If I would have binked any of those tournaments, it would have been the first time on my own. Poker was just coming into its thing. If I would have binked any of those, I would have been maybe a celebrity today. I might have got internet, backing. I would have gotten. It was the time to take that chance.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the end of days, it was only $300.
Yeah.
Sure, I could have put it away, but to take a chance on my own, that was the time to do it on, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
So.
I did I played
what's the lesson here? I'd say it's if you're ever in financial difficulty, just walk the Vegas Strip until you see an empty craps table. Nothing can go wrong after that. No,
you have to have a cursory knowledge of being a super degenerate, hard, aggressive person to play that the way I did. Nobody else was going to win that money the way I played it.
Yeah, no,
because I have not yet ever seen anybody able to do a triple parlay with no abandonments.
Right,
triple parlay. I don't care. And people look at me like I'm crazy, and then they realize, wait a minute, it's only $2.
You got a better chance to profit playing that way than
Yeah, it's the only way.
Probably,
if you're gonna play, especially like I said, if I ever hit an hour roll, I could be at max because I was getting to max bets. I got to max bet at the Bellagio on an 11-minute roll across the board. That's how I won so much.
So you still like the dice? You still play craps?
No.
Okay.
The only time I play craps now is if I'm doing it as a vacation type thing.
Right.
Okay.
Like I went to the series last year, and when I was there, I played 3 events, didn't do real well, but I played live. I won back all my money. And then I went and played. Okay, one of my only degenerate is I do play the penny machines, but I have a system. Now, this sounds like a degenerate thing, but I do have a system. I played a machine once. Only once. Most of the time, I actually win on them. But after that time I play, like, I decide how much I'm going to play, if it's going to be $25 or $100, and that's it. I never play that machine again. Ever. And I mean by that type of machine. So if I play a Wheel of Fortune, I'll never play the Wheel of Fortune machine again. Ever. So I'm actually ahead on machines by doing this. Because the whole thing about machines is sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But the way they get you is you keep playing them.
Right.
You know, because eventually that percentage will get to you. I don't let that come to that point.
I thought you were going to say your system involved, garlic and the silver cross and some sort of, some sort of hex you put on the machine or something.
I was waiting for the holy water to get sprayed on.
No, it's just, that's my system, and I do apply a lot of craps logic to it. Like, I'll start off with the minimum bet, and if I win, no matter what the win is, I double it. And then if I win again, I go up to the 3 a spin, and if I hit again, I go to 4 spin. Doesn't matter if it's a penny I win, and it's a 50-cent spin, it doesn't matter. It just, I play on the chance that if I get lucky, I get lucky. And most of the time, my buddies are like, they're in awe of me because of the times that I win. I won $1,300 on a penny machine, up in Vegas when I went up there to the series, because of that method, on the Iron Man machine, which is a fun machine, by the way. And I only play him for the bonuses. I play him as a video game, because there's a bonus, and there's a bonus round and all that shit. That's all I play him for. I play till I get the bonus, and once I get the bonus, I quit playing him. And I never play him again.
Penny slots are less perilous than craps, certainly, so I guess if you stick to your limits.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I don't know if you want to, get into your domestic situation, but, I look on your Hendon mob, and we were talking about this in L.A., and haven't seen any results for 8 or 9 years because you had to step away from the game.
Yeah, my mom has terminal emphysema, and about 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago now, she needed me to come take care of her. So I was up in Oregon doing that, and then I just moved back to LA. And, the Hendon Mob, unfortunately, doesn't show some of the events I have played. Like, I went up to the WPT up in Canada. I want to say Calgary, but I don't know if that was Calgary. I'll have to look it up. But I played at a couple of events up there while I was up in Oregon. Didn't do well in the events, but played live and kicked ass. So, it's one of those things that I haven't really binked any big tournaments lately. I did go to Ocean's 11 for one of their events, and I took second in one of their events not too long ago. So, and every time I play an event, I get pretty deep. So.
Okay. So, do you think you're going to be playing any more in the LA PC coming up, or no? Yeah.
You know what? I looked at that, and once I saw the flatting out of the tournaments, I don't know if it's even worth it to me play those anymore.
What do you mean flatting out?
Well, when I was playing hardcore tournaments, when you got first place, you got at the minimum 40% of the prize pool.
Oh, yeah. You mean they're paying out 15% of the prize pool instead of 10?
For first place. It's like, you look at that and you go, okay, I understand the concept behind that, because if they spread out more money, more people are in action, more people, they get more money back. I understand from a business perspective, but it doesn't make any sense for somebody like me who has a chance to win the tournament.
Yeah.
It's like, the only event I could see me playing this year because of that type of pay structure is the final event of the series. Because 1 in 6 are going to make their money back. Actually, money plus.
Right.
They're gonna get 6,000 plus players, and they're paying 1,000 places.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't get a better situation than that. I can beat 1 in 6 players.
Yeah.
No problem. Percentage wise, that's probably my best advice if you're a poker player who thinks you can make it deep into tournaments. That's free money this year.
Yeah. What do you have for investments? You mentioned you don't have to work anymore. I like investing. I'm always open to new ideas. What do you do? Stocks, or do you do mutual funds, or what?
Just stocks. I'm blue chips. I've got a bunch in Disney because I used to work at Disney way back.
Okay.
And I got into Disney early, and it's huge right now. I think it's like 90 a share or something. It's really good. But yeah, it's just blue chips, mutual funds, just diversified.
Okay.
You know.
Do you do day trading or?
No. That's gambling.
Okay.
Unless you know, I mean, if you're going to day trade, you need to sit and do nothing else but day trade.
Yeah.
You need to be so informed on what's going on in the markets to do day trading. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in for the long haul.
Okay.
You know, it's what's smart. This is what's smart. You know.
So you bought into Disney. What other stocks do you have?
I don't know. I'd have to look at my portfolio. I go through a lot. Like I have some Alibaba. I have some Amazon. Because the reason I have those right now, I have Amazon for sure. Because prices of gas has dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Everything that is any kind of delivery is going to make a big profit this year.
Oh, yeah.
So any delivery service, anything like that, is going to go up. Hell, Pizza Hut and all the pizza places are probably going to be good.
Okay.
Anything with any kind of things. And I think Amazon's a really good service because, you know, it's really, we're getting to a digital age. So Amazon's a really good buy right now. And it's before it hits that profit margin too.
Yeah.
You know. But if you think about it, I mean, like anything like UPS, FedEx, all of those type of companies, those are going to be good investments this year.
Okay.
So.
Okay. You know, another pattern I've noticed too, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when the real estate market goes down, gold goes up. Have you noticed that one?
Yeah, but it's because people start dropping their investments in real estate.
Yeah.
And investing in gold, because gold's never really going to go down.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those things that it just back and forth.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not so much into the commodities. I'm more into, like I said, blue chips, things that give dividends. Because then I get money back, and then I can if I'm doing okay that month, I can put that money back into my stocks. And I just keep rolling it over and rolling it over.
What are blue chips? I haven't heard of that.
Blue chips would be things like Exxon. There's big companies.
Okay.
That are always earners, like Exxon, Bank of America.
Microsoft or Apple or?
Yeah, those are more tech stocks.
Okay.
Ones that have been around, companies that have stood the test of time and
Edison.
large and
Okay.
Yeah, Edison, that sort of thing. Well, Edison would be a commodity because that's a power thing.
Okay. Amgen?
To a point, I think, yeah. But like I said, you know, anything to that nature, those are big. Like any of the big banks,
Okay.
Chase Manhattan, a couple of those other ones, things that are solid that can never really get hurt, especially if they're backed by the government.
Okay.
So what are the poker plans for the upcoming year? Are you going to be grinding cash and go playing some tournaments this summer again, maybe in Vegas?
I'm definitely coming for the series. I might come twice. I'm not 100% sure I'm playing the final event, but I'm like 70%. It just depends. Like I said, I have to have somebody be able to take care of my mom. You know, on the off chance I do well in the final event, you know, I need somebody to be able to take care of her for 7 days. So logistically, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm definitely going to come out for. I'll probably come out for like $1,000 no limit. I'll probably come out for like a $1,500 no limit for sure. But I don't know past that. And then as far as playing live, it's one of those things. If I can get the day off to take care of her, I will. I'll do it. But she's my priority.
Of course.
And that's, you know, it's okay because, you know, I mean, if it wasn't this, she'd be in a home or something. And, you know, I'm blessed in the fact that my career choice has allowed me the opportunity to take care of her. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, no problem. If you guys want to hear some more really cool stories, I have a whole bunch of stories about everybody, like John Benetti spilling hot coffee down my back after I bad beat him in a tournament. That was a full cup too. Oh, it sucked. But not giving him any reaction was the better.
Right.
You
You won that exchange, I guess.
Oh yeah. 'Cause, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Probably have to have you back here because we basically barely scratched the surface here. You got a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, I got stories upon stories. So if your viewers want to email you some questions about anybody that they want to talk about, like I probably have stories about everybody. I got stories about Daniel. I got stories about Phil Ivey, Phil Hellmuth, Phil Gordon. I got stories about just about everybody.
I like the
Sammy
Frank.
Farha.
I like degenerate stories, frankly. So
Yeah.
maybe an all Frank Henderson story. If he's if he's the king of the degen angle shooters, maybe.
You like a degenerate story? Here's a degenerate story. I think I told this one actually together. So you know who Lane Flack is?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I walk by a table and Lane Flack and a couple other degens are playing pitch pennies with $5,000 or $500 chips.
Pitch pennies? What's it?
Okay, so pitch pennies is where you're pitching you flick a penny with your thumb against the wall.
Oh, the closest one wins.
And the closest one wins.
Yeah.
They're doing it with $500 chips on a poker table. So they're on one end of the poker table, flicking them to the other end of the poker table, and whoever gets closest to the rail wins. And I said, "Can I play?" It's like, "What do you have? 500?" Ha ha ha. I'm like, "Okay." I said, "What are the rules?" It says, "You just have to get a chip from this end of the table to that end. You can't pass here with your hand." I'm like, "All right." It says, "I don't. It doesn't matter how I go." It's like, "No." I said, "Okay, you guys go first because you guys are the pros. I'll go last." They all go. And one guy gets kind of close, and they're a good, like the closest one's like a chip length away. I get my chip, I put it on the side, I roll it. Rolls right to the end of the table, lands on the rail, I go up and scoop all the chips. I go, "Thank you, gentlemen," and walk off. Never make a bet with a dealer. We know all the tricks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they hated me. They were like, "What? No." I said no. I clarified before we started. I could use any method. Like, yeah, you're right. Fucking Travis. They hate making bets because I'll never make a bet I can't win. I won't. Maybe I would have flipped over on the side, but at least I gave myself the best odds to get there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
well, you know what? I got a quick hand if you want to talk a little strategy real quick.
Sure.
This is a 2-3 no limit table. Max buy-in is 300. Okay. I've got let's see, under the gun limps for 3. Middle position limps for 3. And then I've got 7 of clubs, 7 of spades I'm in the cutoff. And so I could raise at this point. I could limp. What would you guys do here?
What's the under the gun and the middle position chip stacks?
They're about the same. Effective stacks are 300.
Everybody's about 300. Okay. What's the table image?
Well, we just sat down. This is only like the third or fourth hand.
Hypothetically, we have no information about anybody. They have no information on us.
Pretty much,
what does the blinds look like? Do they look like they're calling stations?
Yeah, I've played with some of these people before, but I don't specifically remember anything like as far as whether they were going to call or not. I think generally speaking, the table in 4 hands nobody had been raising or anything.
I might make it 11 to go.
Okay.
Just to get rid of the blinds, just to show off a little bit of strength. That way I can, because I'm near the end of the button. And then if I hit my hand, that's completely hidden.
Okay. Mike, did you raise or call or?
I defer to the professional here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Steve. I'm actually putting my sneakers on because I have to get to run here. So I'm sorry. I thought we were cutting off at 10:30, but please, you two will have to continue this discussion here.
Okay.
I will. I've been giving Steve bad advice about poker. I had him 3-bet ace queen yesterday. Well, no, I didn't. I was watching him play an online tournament, and I think as soon as I started putting my 2 cents in, things went bad. But go ahead, you guys talk about this hand.
Okay.
All right. So what did you end up doing?
So I ended up calling. I thought maybe I'll hit my set. Yeah, looking back, I probably should have raised. But I call. The small blind comes along. The big blind checks. And then we go to the flop. We got $15 in the pot. And the flop is 2-2 jack, rainbow. Everyone checks to me. So the small blind, big blind, under the gun, and middle position check. And then it's on me.
Well, you can't give a free card here.
No.
Yeah, no. You got to make it. I don't know if I'd go pot size, but I'd probably make it 10 here.
Okay. I went for 12. I figured I would probably have the best hand. I figured anybody with the jack is probably betting.
Yeah.
And so I make it 12. Both the blinds fold. Under the gun calls 12. And then middle position folds. So we go to the turn. There's $34 in the pot minus the $5 rake. And the turn is the 4 of diamonds.
Wait. There's a $5 rake on a $34 pot?
Yeah, once it reaches $19, they take out 5.
All right, so here's what I do on this hand. Is I pick up my chips and I walk out of the casino. Because, seriously, $5? That's ridiculous. All right, so what happens? What happens to the turn?
So the turn's the 4 of diamonds, putting up a backdoor diamond draw. And under the gun checks to me.
Now you check.
Oh, check behind.
Yeah, there's no reason to. If he calls you on the flop, the only thing he can have on the flop has you beat. He either has a deuce or a jack.
Okay.
I mean, if he has a medium pair, he might have you beat. I mean, the only thing you're beating here is a draw. And what's he drawing on the flop with?
Nothing.
Yeah. So it's just a check here. It's check and get away from it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I mean, think about it. The only thing he can call you with on the turn or on the flop has you beat. If you bet him on the turn, you have no extra information. If he comes over the top of you, you don't know if it's a jack or the deuce. If he smooth calls you, you don't know if it's a jack or the deuce.
Yeah.
You're not getting to lay down the hand if he calls your bet on the flop.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's no reason to bet here. You have no prudence to bet unless he has like ace king. Like that's the only possible hand. Ace king or ace queen or king queen. Like he's calling for an overpair.
Yeah.
But even that's a bad call.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
On the flop. So, yeah, you just check. There's no reason to bet here. But I assume you bet because you made that sound. So.
That's true, yeah. Okay, all right. Well, I bet pot. I bet 35. And he thinks for a little while and then he calls. And yeah, you're right. That is an obvious check now that I'm looking at this. Okay. Well, I bet 35. He calls. So we go to the river. There's 104 in the pot, and Villain leads out for 30. So
the river's ink going.
Oh yeah, the river's a blank. I think it was a 3 of clubs. Didn't complete the flush or anything like that.
Leads out at 30. See, here you have to call because 1 in 4 times if he's bluffing, it's worth the $30.
Yeah,
you're calling 140. You're calling 30 for 145.
Yeah.
So it's almost a 5 to 1. You have to call.
Okay.
But see, if you don't bet the turn. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now when he makes a $20 bet on the river, now you can muck.
Yeah.
There's no reason to call.
Yeah, I would have saved myself $50 there. Okay.
But you would have saved more money by raising pre-flop. Because then you get to figure out where he's at. If he's on like an ace deuce, he might still call you. Right? And then the whole hand plays differently.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, the turn was your big mistake with the way you played it. If you don't make that bet on the turn. Because like I said, what's he calling you with? Especially if it's sensitive 4. If it was a king or an ace that hits the turn and you bet, it's a much better bet.
Yeah.
Because now if he has a jack, it's harder for him to call.
Is there any thought of actually raising the river because it looks like a blocking bet and he's scared with the pair? He's worried.
No, if he's called the flop in this situation, he's got a hand. He's not laying it down, especially since it's a 3 on the river.
Yeah. Okay.
You know? I mean, unless you can push him out of that pot with a big bet, like he bets 30 and you bet 150 at him, and he's the type of player who can lay down top pair in that situation or trips, then it's not worth it. It's just, in the long run, it's, it was much better for you in your specific situation to check the turn, and since you didn't, you have to pay off in the river.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I called. He showed down 9s.
9s.
He had pocket 9s. Yeah.
But that's my point exactly. Him calling the flop is the same as you betting the flop.
Yeah.
So, but he's not, okay, so let's imagine the reverse. So pre-flop, if you were to raise, he definitely calls because he has 9s. Flop comes jack, deuce, deuce, right?
Yeah.
Now you bet at the flop, he just calls. Now on the turn, you bet again. It's hard for him to call now.
Yeah.
Because he's got to look at the fact that he's only got a pair of 9s. He didn't hit his set, or didn't hit his full house, and you can have aces, kings, queens, or an ace jack in there, or king jack, or queen jack, or anything. There's so many cards that hell, even 10s beat him at this spot.
Yeah.
right? So for him to continue on this situation, it's really hard for him to play.
Yeah.
So the pre-flop raise is where you would have won that hand. Any other situation, you don't.
Okay. That was a good lesson.
I still contend the river raise there would be. I mean, it's risky. I mean, I guess because you've played the previous streets poorly, it's almost like, okay, let's just get out of this damn thing cheap and move on to the next hand.
Yeah.
But
that's the point, because of if he raises there, the only thing he can be called by, he's getting beat. And unless that
I understand. It's obviously right. it'd be a bluff, obviously, on the river here. You're 99% sure you're beat.
Right.
But
that's my point. I mean, you're looking at in the interest of situations here, you're going to have to put in a big bet to get him off that hand, because he's put in 30.
Yeah.
So if you make it 150, he has to call 120 into a $300 pot.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's almost giving him right odds. It's like it's close. So you almost have to go 200 to make him not be able to call that bet.
Yeah.
But I got to go, guys. So.
All right. Have a good one, Travis. Thank you very much. And take care, man.
Holler back at me next time.
Unfortunately, your hand analysis was so lucid, I think Steve's going to be calling you in the middle of the night now for help, because I have been no use to him in this respect. But it's great talking to you, man.
All right, bye.
Oh, man. Well, that was pretty good. You about ready to head out?
Yeah, Steve, I got to run.
Okay. All right, man.
Okay, man.
Take care.
Whether or not you win this thing, you've got to decide how you're going to walk out of here when it's all said and done. Because the game is going to go on. And there's only one rule you're going to need to know about. There are no second chances. There's only this moment and the next moment. Every one of those moments is a test that you get to take one time, and only one time. So if you see an opening, tear into it. If you get a shot at victory, make damn sure you take it. Seize that moment. That moment is a crossroads where everything you want will collide with everything standing in your way. You've got momentum at your back. Fear and doubt are thundering like a freight train straight at you. And all you got, the only difference between making history and being history, the only thing you can count on in any given moment is you. It's you versus them. You versus no. You versus can't. You versus next year, last year, statistics, excuses. It's you versus history. You versus the odds. It's you versus second place. Clock is ticking. Let's see what you got.